Hi everyone, my name is Cher. Welcome back to episode 6 of the Lathe and Loom podcast. I am podcasting from Eastern North Carolina in the United States, and today is Saturday, August the 28th. If this is your first time stopping by, thank you so much for joining us. If you're a returning viewer, I appreciate you coming back. This podcast is mainly knitting and with a little bit of spinning, dyeing, and weaving, kind of my little space on the internet to document my fiber journey. So today I've got a couple of finished objects, several works in progress, and then a little bit of some stashed acquisitions to inspire you from a recent trip I took to a local yarn store here on the coast. So we'll get started first with the finished objects. I'm going to insert, I pre-recorded because one of my objects that was a gift. So I have pre-recorded that. The first item is a little bit of a discussion about the natural dyeing I did with some marigolds, and then a quick pair of socks, and then we will be back with works in progress. So for the first two finished objects, I wanted to try a little different view here. This is my Jacob fleece and some merino nylon sock yarn that I dyed in a marigold bath. So I used the instructions in the Spin-Off magazine. You can see my camera angle is not going to get that as well as I had hoped, sorry. And looking at the instructions for in this article, One Pot Magic. So it's how to do a rainbow dye bath. So you're really kind of leaving everything whole and layering the fleece in it. It was a really interesting article, and I have some photos on my Instagram of the various stages of that actual dyeing experiment. But so this is the comparison for the natural Jacob that I just had processed, and then this that I had done in the dye bath here. So it's not coming out quite as yellow on camera. It is pale, but it's definitely a yellow. On camera, it's looking a little more straw-like to me, or more beige, but it definitely has a yellow tint to it. And then this is some of the sock yarn, and it's interesting where I had the whole marigold. Some of them, some of them I left the green on. Some of them had dried up a little bit, and so that's where you have some of these darker spots. But I think it's going to be really pretty and kind of an interesting variegation in there to knit with. So I'm pleased with that as a first attempt. It is always interesting to see how the fiber takes the dye differently. And what colors you get. I mean, this one, I had hoped it would be a little bit deeper, but it is at least a nice yellow, so I'm happy with that result. And for my other finished object, I have a pair of Shorty Socks. These are worsted Shorty Socks. That I did for my son. I've also seen those on Instagram. And so I did cast on at the toe. This is a Turkish cast on, 8 stitches. I did a rounded toe, increasing every row until I got to 20. and then every other row till I got to 30 stitches on each side, so half of it, so 60 stitches total here. Knit up to about 1 inch before I was going to start the heel, and then increased to 64 stitches. He asked me for a little more room in the arch, and then did a shadow wrap heel. So interestingly, when I was doing the first shadow wrap heel, I intended to do a garter stitch, which gives it just a little more cushion and is nice, and it was kind of tight, and so I switched. And then when I did the second sock, I guess I forgot I switched, and I wasn't having the same issue. So they're fraternal socks, not identical socks. And then I just did a rolled, so I did 5 rounds and just a loose bind off. I did the knit through the back loop. I didn't try to do anything in pattern or anything fancy, and I find that works really quite nicely. So I popped in to do this one early because I know he's gonna come down this weekend and he'll pick those up. So believe that is it for my finished objects. So I hope you like that format. I would love to get some feedback in the comments below. I need to work on the camera angle, but I thought maybe for some things, particularly I think you'll see at the end with the stash acquisition section, I'm hoping it gives you a little more visibility to the product, you know, up close. So love to hear how you liked that segment. So we're going to move right into works in progress, and I have several. First, I guess, actually, first I will start off with the one that has been the long awaited cast on. So this is in a bag by I Heart You. Laura has a channel. I think her channel is I Heart Knitting. I love this bag. It's drawstring, bucket bag, very good, sorry, a little dog hair there. Very good capacity. You can fold it down. It's got a nice carrying handle and some big pockets inside. And in here I have finally, hold the applause, cast on the Heart of Glass. So this is a pattern by Mary Andrea, and it's a top-down seamless construction. You'll see from the photos you have an option for a sleeveless or a long sleeve version. So this is my summer sweater, which I know it's just about September, probably September by the time you see this podcast. And but with the lightweight knit and the heat here in North Carolina, I should be able to wear it for a few months, or a couple months at least, and then with a cardigan or jacket or something. So this is working up, I think, so nicely in this beautiful yarn. So this was the yarn that I purchased from the Knit Nook, the Sheep Dip Dye Works. I've shown it a couple of times, but here it is in its cake in my little Nitty Netty yarn cozy. I'll put the name below for her. She has a really nice pattern. I think it's a yarn cozy. And then the yarn from, looking for my tag. Somewhere in here I have the tag. Anyway, oh, there we go. Oh, it's attached to the ball. That's the problem. From Sheep Dip Dye Works. You'll see a little bit more about them later in my stash acquisitions. There were several new items in the Knit Nook, and I did get another one. This is just for back to the bag. This is the I Heart You's information I'll put that below if it's not so clear. And then that's her channel, I Heart Knitting. So just to share another fellow podcaster in there. If you haven't watched her, she has some really nice content on her channel with knitting, and she does a little cross stitch now too, I believe. So that's that project. My on-the-go knitting, I have cast on another pair of worsted Shorty Socks, this time for me. And I'm using some merino superwash from Wool to Die For. And this was some that I hand dyed with avocado dye, pits and skins. So I love this color. I had made a Andrea Mowry weekender for my daughter out of it, and this is just a little bit of leftover skein, and then I have a little bit of leftover from my husband's unique worsted socks. So I'm just kind of playing around with this a little bit, and it's going super fast. I'm striping in that unique in with the worsted. I did my standard 8 stitch Turkish cast on rounded toe, knitting up to working in the middle of the shadow wrap heel, and I am working this one fully in garter stitch because I just like that extra cushion, and I've been wanting to try this. I mean, these are not, it's 100% merino. It would not wear probably well in shoes, but for slipper socks, I'm really interested to see how well it wears. I mean, and honestly, for hundreds of years they didn't have superwash, and people wore their socks just fine, and that's probably why they learned to darn. But somehow that skill appeals to me. It'll be very interesting to see how quickly I get to use it. And then I'm just trying, just striping that in, that unique worsted in with using the helical method. And I used, I went back and refreshed my memory there using a couple of the Knitting Natty tutorials, and I will be glad to link those below. They're on her tutorial section on her channel. So that's just kind of my quick on the go. That is 48 stitches. I'm a US size 8, which I think 38, 39 European. I'm actually an 8.5. And I just like to have that. So it's also nice Zoom knitting, or if I get on a conference call or something that I am I'm trying not to multitask. It sometimes helps me stay engaged. I will, actually I was going to talk about this right for my stash acquisition, because I usually do not have a beverage while I'm podcasting, but I'm going to stop a minute here. When I did my local yarn shop trip to Morehead City that I'll talk about in the stash acquisition section, you'll see the yarn for, Lisa and Karen had a really nice gift for me. So I have a skein of yarn, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. You can see a couple of photos here. And included in my little gift was this very, very cute Llama Ding Dong mug. And I'll put in some pictures so you can see that. But that was so cool. It was my first podcast present. And anyway, I was very excited. I love the mug. So I'm just drinking some black Taifu tea along here with. But yeah, so thank you again, Lisa and Karen at the Knit Nook. That was kind of a very cool podcast moment for me. So my next whip, back to where we were, is the AYearofMarieWallinKAL by Marie Wallin, and I am knitting this for the A Year with Marie WallinKAL that is being run by Nikki of Knitting with Cat Hair. And this is this is one of my acquisitions as well. This was a bag from the Knit Nook. So Karen at the Knit Nook does these really neat, let's see, the handle actually comes up thusly. So you've seen the small one before that I had some socks in, but this is the big size. I I wasn't sure if I would like this, but I wanted to try a bigger bag. I love this bag. I mean, so the handle just folds down. And for this color work where I have all these little skeins, I mean, they're just standing up, ready to go. Has these nice pockets. It has a matching scissor holder, which I gotta admit, you guys, I thought this was probably something I would never use, and I bought one, and now I'm obsessed. Like, all of my bags must have them. So I've got my little scissors in it, and then they have these little, you know, the little stitch fixer. And I just keep that in there. Now I know where everything is. It's easy to find because I'm always digging for that crochet hook. So I'm now obsessed. I'm like, have to have this in all of my bags. But anyway, really like that, the bag. It's a nice bucket style. It's really great for this color work, I'm finding as well. So anyway, so here I am. I'm just about finished with the first repeat. And I think I've talked in the last cast that, you know, I showed in the last cast I was trying to match up, but then I have now since selected the colors. So I did fairly close. These are Jamieson and Smith, not Jamieson and Shetland. So most of the colors are similar, but they're certainly not exactly to the pattern. But you know, someone told me that will make it uniquely mine. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I've forgotten how much I enjoy doing color work. It's actually really relaxing, and it's I mean, you do have to have the pattern, but I find I can usually kind of get the rhythm of the next couple rows, and then, you know, or each definitely row, then knit around before I'm having to look again. So I am just really enjoying that. I have some days I don't really want to knit it on anything else. And I am finding I've been collecting this yarn, and I don't know if you can tell, like, this is, you hear about sticky yarn, and I use a lot of natural wool, but I mean, this is like Velcro. Like, it is really sticky. So I can completely see how to do a steeked something. You would not have to do any reinforcement with this yarn. So that's really interesting. So I'm really enjoying that. Sorry about that. Really enjoying that knit. And then the other on the go, or not on the go, this has sort of been like my Sunday evening project. I didn't need another cast on, but several folks, I think Nikki from Knitting with Cat Hair and Naomi from the Yarn Curator, her sister Zoe was also spinning for a night shift, and a couple other people have cast on, and also Lisa at the Knit Nook had cast on. So this is the Night Shift Shawl by Andrea Mowry. I did not work on it this last week, but I had just started it down here, and I don't think I showed it in the last podcast. But I decided to, and I did, this does have an I-cord edge, and it's a little bit tight, so I'm hoping the bottom blocks out, and I'm doing it much looser as you move up. But I decided to use all of my hand-dyed and some of my hand-dyed, hand-spun yarns. So these are, I mean, kind of crazy colors. I did make socks. You'll recognize this from the socks. You know, something that I might not have other purpose for using. And so I just decided go big or go home, and I'm kind of pulling, I mean, they all were using the same Wilton food dyes, so should all coordinate pretty nicely. I'm just going to make it kind of crazy. I mean, it's just a shawl. I'll probably just wear it around the house, and, you know, chilly evenings on the porch and so forth. So, you know, why not have a little fun and adventure in our knitting? But I'm kind of like, I really like how it's knitting up. This pattern is really fun. It took me a little bit I still have to kind of look at it. I feel like I've heard other folks say they memorize the pattern. I, for whatever reason, cannot wrap my head around memorizing it. So I do have to look, but I mean, I just have to kind of look at the beginning of each row. So really relaxing. I try to keep something, this is a slightly bigger needle. And I think, yeah, I think the pattern calls for an 8 and I'm using a 9 because, as per usual, my the size I needed is on some project, and I actually don't know what project that it is on. I can't find my 8s. So anyway, so I put them on a 9, but I think for this it's working out fine. It is a worsted weight pattern, and I'm happy with the gauge on it. It's a shawl, so no big deal there. This is in my Prairie Bagworks bag, which I love. I stocked this, you may remember the story, I stocked this fabric online for a long time, and then Needles at the Ready had showed her with this fabric, and I was like, oh, I'm not making it. When I can order it, I'll take time away from my knitting. So I just picked it up, but it's also a very nice size bag, very similar patterning to the one I just showed by Laura. And then my last work in progress, and this is in my float tote, which is the pattern by Knitty Natty. I love this float tote. I'm actually thinking about it. Something else I'd love if you would comment below. I would love to do either a project bag mal, this is crocheted, or a crochet along, or I'd love to maybe do, if some other folks are interested in doing the float tote, which is, I think is just and if there's 3 sizes, I'd like to do a smaller size for some socks. I'd like to do a make along maybe with that. I'd be curious if anybody else would like to participate. We could do a float tote cowl, or you could do your own, and people might do market bags. Maybe there's some of you that sew, you might want to do a project bag. We could do maybe a what's your project bag make along or something. So I'd love to know if there was some interest in that. We could just sort of run it for something on the side, right? A little bit different kind of project. But anyway, back to my, so this is my Comfort Fade Cardi. I am, let's see, this is the back side, but I was, you can see the stitch marker. I was at the stitch marker on the last podcast. I've knit up now to the rib. So this is a reverse stockinette. So here's the correct way around. And you can see now that lovely fade of the 3 Fru Valborg, that's why I couldn't get it, sorry. Fru Valborg, and that's Dahlia, Belize, and Ramshackle. And then I've now moved into the Life in the Long Grass garnet. Which is interesting. I loved how well these are sort of fading together. I think the fade is really nice, and I'm loving just the variation of this garnet even. I mean, it just kind of looks like it just looks worn and comfy, and it has quite a lot of variation in it. So this is knit back and forth, which has, been fine. It's 3 inches of ribbing, and I have to tell you, the first maybe 4 rows, I thought, oh, I'm not gonna, this is a slog. Which is funny because I don't mind ribbing on socks at all. And I realized that when I started my Heart of Glass, I took my interchangeable set that was on this project and moved it over so I'd have a shorter cord. And I had put a fixed set of, so still ChiaoGoo size 5 needles, US 5, onto here, not realizing that of course the fixed set has the 5-inch tips, and I normally knit with a 4-inch tip, and for some reason it struck me yesterday because I kept feeling like, because I purl Norwegian, so there's a fair amount of movement in my purl stitch, and I just kept feeling like the needles are in the way, that I can't get the knitting right. Like, it just was not, normally that just really flows for me. knit, knit, purl, purl. I mean, I normally find it very meditative. And last night I switched back. I had bought another set of size 5 4-inch tips, switched it back to that today and this morning, and now it's like a whole different experience. So I find that really interesting. I don't know if anyone else, if you've ever, I wouldn't have even thought about the tip length making a difference. I mean, certainly I know when I switched to 9-inch circulars, it's obviously very different for a reason. And then you have to think about your hands probably a little bit more. But anyway, the last couple rows have gone much faster, so I'm hopeful I'll get all 3 inches done. Maybe this weekend. I'm kind of fighting the urge to knit or go ahead and cast the sleeves on as well, so I could just have some plain circular knitting, and then I'll have the shawl collar to do. So I know there's still a fair amount of knitting on this one, but this will be ready for fall, so I'm excited about that because I bought this yarn a year ago, March of 2020, right before lockdown, really. And it's just been sitting waiting for the right time, and so I cast this on not too long ago, but so really happy to have that, and I think it's going to be a really versatile part of my wardrobe. So that is it. That is a lot of whips in progress, and I can't even believe that I'm tempted by a few more projects. So I'm trying to focus on getting a few of these off the needle. I have some other projects I didn't show that I haven't worked on as well, that are kind of, maybe they're a little more in hibernation. So I would love to hear what you're working on. If you want to leave that in the comments below, or catch me on Instagram and send me a message. If you want to join into the Year of Marie WallinKAL, I had a little more detail in episode 5. And you can also go to Nikki's channel, and she talks about that, I think 2 episodes ago as well. So we would love to have you. It's a really fun group. We've got a nice little group chat. We're going to try a Zoom call. So really enjoying the community around that, which is kind of why I started this podcast as well. So next I've got, I'm going to put in a few clips here over my shoulder of my trip to the Knit Nook. So this is in Morehead City, North Carolina, so on the coast from us a little. It's about a 2-hour drive for me, as I mentioned earlier. Very welcoming shop, really well stocked variety of yarns, and it just, I think probably every knitter finds that place that has the thing that calls to them, but just a lot of the brands and types of yarn really speak to the aesthetic that I enjoy for my knitting. So that and the community is really, really nice there. So a couple of clips here of some newer, so Amble yarns, which I think I talk about in my review in a little bit here, and then here's a shot of some of the yarns from Sheep Dip Dye Works, and as well as oh gosh, who's the third one I have? There's another new one, Ember Yarns. So Sheep Dip Dye Works and Ember are both local dyers to the Morehead New Bern area, so I think it's really nice to be able to feature local dyers as well. And Karen and Lisa have a YouTube channel also, Knit Nook News, and if you want some inspiration on yarn, that's the place to watch. So you'll want to get one of everything. So when they carry Unique, they carry Woolfolk, I carry I think they carried Jamesons of Shetland, if I recall, as well as several others, La Jolla, and and they've just restocked a bunch, and they carry a lot of the Unique brand as well. So I will leave you here, and then there's about a 10-minute clip of some of the yarns that I picked up on my little shopping adventure. So give you a little bit of up close and information on some of that. And I hope to see you in the next podcast. Thank you again for stopping by. Still not quite to 50 subscribers, which I would really, so I have a goal to get to 100 subscribers by my 10th episode. So this is episode 6. I would really, really appreciate I know some of you have been super great about sharing on your social media, and I've gotten several new subscribers since the last podcast. So would love to have, if everybody would like share with a couple people, that would be awesome. I very much appreciate it. If you would give a thumbs up in the YouTube channel, that will also help. And it really helps if you would leave a comment. So if you want to introduce yourself, talk about what you're working on, or answer one of the questions that I talked about throughout the podcast, I would really appreciate it. So thanks so much for stopping by. I'd love to hear from you. I'm on Instagram if you want a message. And I hope you have a wonderful week until I podcast again. Happy knitting, dyeing, spinning, and weaving. Thanks so much, y'all. So you may have seen my little weekend trip to the Knit Nook, my local-ish, it's about an hour, and well, it's almost about 2 hours away, really, yarn shop, the Knit Nook. So Lisa and Karen, great, we had a nice catch up, and as I commented on earlier in the podcast, just wanted to show some of the yarn, so you can see a little bit more up close that I purchased. So first one I got was the Sheep Dip Dye Works Meet Me at the Nook colorway. So this is the new colorway. So this is in the staple sock 75 25 superwash merino nylon. So these colors are just so pretty, the teals and the speckles. So probably destined for a pair of socks there. Peterbrook Farm yarn Entropy DK Blueface Leicester. I picked up a second skein of that, and I talked about that one a little bit earlier in the podcast, but just to show the skein that I picked up and this one, just super pretty, looking for something a little different. And this again knits up similar to, and this is the one that I showed earlier, just to see it in a little bit more detail. Beautiful, definitely the Nook colorways, and will look super pretty, as I noted in my night shift shawl. So there's their website, peterbrook.com. So super excited. I haven't really ever worked with anything like that. I've never worked with Spin Cycle that is so similar to it. So I think it's going to be just a lot of fun to see how that works out. I had talked earlier when I did my husband's socks. This is another of the unique worsted self-striping. Of course, they have the knit one, plant one. They will plant a tree for each skein sold, so it's super cool. There's a little give back there, and you can post, I think if you do a finished object and also post that, they will plant a second tree, is what I have read. So this is Earth Yarns made in Turkey. I mean, their colors are just so pretty. So I'm really excited to see how this one knits up. I loved how my husband's striped worsted socks knit up, and I think this is going to be similarly just lovely. Happened to catch, I believe it's the episode 2 of the Knit Nook News podcast. Karen Lisa talked about this Germantown Unicorn. So this is from Kelborn Woolens, and 100% North American wool, which is kind of cool. And this is like their mill-in, so that's the unicorn titling. So this is Persian Red Rhododendron, so there's regular colorways in those colors. There's the lot number, and it's 220 yards for 100 grams. I just thought this was very cool. I think it will be something interesting either as in a yoke maybe, or just to add a different striping in a colorway, or in my current thing, in my current quest for all worsted socks, it may become socks, we'll see. I just wanted to give it a try. I thought it was just a really neat kind of concept to look at. I also spoke about the Amble Yarn, and I picked up both a full-size skein here from the Fiber Co. Washable merino wool, alpaca, and recycled nylon. 355 yards for 100 grams. And this is the colorway Castle Rig. Made in Peru. It's so soft and just lovely. And the colorways are stunning. I picked up this mini. I have a feeling this will become a scarf, and I think the camera's picking this up fairly well, but all the colors in this, I guess it reads brown, but a little lilac and a little green and a little bit of red or orange, and I just think this would be a stunning sweater. Kind of thinking I might do a sweater for my dad out of this. I just think that would be really lovely coloring. So, but this is going to be a pair of socks with the contrasting heel toe and cuff. I think that'll look really pretty together. Also, again, would look pretty in a color work. And the colors were all just these really lovely, really lovely colors. So they recycle the nylon, and they use an alternative to the chlorine processing that's generally in superwash, so easier on the environment, and creates a eco-friendly anti-shrink, easy wash treatment. So I think that's really kind of cool. And last, at least on the yarn side, is I picked up three of the Trekking XXL sock yarns. This will probably end up on my sock machine as socks, but I just think the colorways, I realized with a lot of the sock machine yarn that I purchased things in cones, and I purchased what I thought would kind of the guys would like and the girls wouldn't mind, so they're pretty neutral, and I'm like, I kind of just wanted some pinks, so and some other colors. So this is color 722. They're made in Germany. Wool, superwash wool and polyamide 75-25, 420 meters for 100 grams. So I think that's probably going to work up striping just of those colors, obviously. And then they do have some that are patterned. This one looks like this might be striped. This one looks like it might be patterned. But when Karen and Lisa showed it on the podcast, they said, you can look online and see what it'll knit up, or you can see it'll be a surprise. And I think I like the idea of having it be a surprise. So that's just the few of the acquisitions from my lovely trip that I talked about earlier for that last Saturday. Just hopefully this view is good, and give me some feedback and let me know if you like that. I'll try to vary it, switch it up a little bit, but there we are.